how bad this lender, I don't understand what would happen, but a week before closing, and the appraisal was good. Everything was fine with the appraisal. The credit background was good. There was the title, everything was good. But then a week ahead of time, sorry, we can't do it.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back. My name is Kevin McIntosh, the host of The Closing Table, and we have a very special guest joining us on this episode. Top producing, successful real estate agent, Brooke Yussim. How you doing, Brooke?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We always appreciate having very successful and knowledgeable agents on the show. We're here to pick your brain, but first, let's play a game. This is the icebreaker I like to call word association. I got about 5 real estate related words and or phrases. Brooke, I just want you to give me your first reaction, whether that's a word, a definition, an anecdote, whatever you want to do. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. First word, refinance.
Refinance. Hope you did it in the past.
Okay. Second one, pre-approval.
Oh, necessary.
Okay. Easement.
Easement. Interesting one. For rural properties, mandatory that you check them. Absolutely.
I like that. Okay. Closing disclosure.
Closing disclosure from the lending perspective, I'm assuming also, again, very necessary, and they've gotten better over the years.
Okay. And last one, assessed value.
Oh, on the tax records, don't pay any attention to it most of the time. Depends on where you live. Some areas I've heard that it's extremely accurate, but in other areas it's not so accurate.
Interesting response. Okay. All right. Looking at an interesting episode here today. Thank you for playing our game, Brooke, getting things started off just the right way. We appreciate that, setting the tone. So let's get into who you are, Brooke, first and foremost, outside of real estate. In 60 seconds or less, can you tell us who is Brooke outside of your profession?
Oh gosh, outside of my profession, most of what I do is work. Although I am a wife, a stepmother, grandmother of 2 little girls. I love to cook. I have a hydroponic garden in my kitchen, a great big tall one. I love it. And I also do a lot in the community. I currently am serving on 3 boards for Sylvania Community Services, which runs a child care and a senior center, and also the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Toledo. Which is near and dear to my heart. So I serve on those. And then I'm also on the Northwest Ohio Board of Realtors.
Okay, good. Beautiful, beautiful. That's good to hear. So, I mean, you pretty much already answered the follow-up question that I had, but just to give a little bit more detail and insight, can you describe the current market that you're serving geographically via location, surrounding cities, landmarks, things to do, attractions, etc.?
Well, my base of operation is Toledo, Ohio, and which is Northwest Ohio, and I am about 5 miles where I live from the Michigan border. So I don't have a Michigan license yet, but that's next on the hit list, is to probably come up with get a Michigan license, because I'm very close to Michigan. And Northwest Ohio encompasses, mostly I cover about 4 different counties in the area, and we sit right on Lake Erie. So it's a nice town. I call Toledo a big, small town. And the total population of the metropolitan area, it's about 650,000, give or take. And mostly suburban. There's some rural, though. There's lots of farms out in this area as well. And let me see, major attractions and landmarks. One, we have a phenomenal park system. Our park system, the Toledo Metro Park Association, won a national award. We were like in the top in the country for our park system. And the goal of the system is to have a park within 5 miles of every resident. And
Mm.
it's fabulous what they've done with all the parks in this area. So that's been great. And then also Toledo, for those who know the TV show MASH, it's the home Of Jamie Farr, who made Tony
Okay.
Packer's hot dogs and the Toledo Mud Hens baseball team famous. So their claim to fame.
Nice. All right, nice, nice. Thanks for painting that picture. I've never been to Toledo. I've heard great things. Have friends who've lived there, went to school there, and things of that nature. I've always heard of Toledo as like the adopted child of Michigan. Like it's like that close. It's like where it might as well
It
be
is.
part of Michigan in a way. But I've never been, so I heard it's a great town though. So thank you. Brooke, let's get into the nitty gritty of things.
Okay.
Before we even started the show, you already kind of gave me some insight into this, but I want to hear your thoughts as a real estate agent. How do you feel about paying for leads?
Yikes, is my first response. And I do not want to offend anybody who pays for leads, because for some people, it's actually extremely successful for them and it works.
Mm-hmm.
I will
Right.
give you a little my own personal history with it. When I was first starting out, I owned my own office. I started my career in the state of Oregon. I was on the southern
Mm.
Oregon coast in Coos County, Oregon, which is pretty rural, right on the Pacific Ocean, and
Mm.
a smaller area. And so I was paying for leads through Zillow and through Realtor.com. And at that time, what I was paying for was to be the exclusive agent that the leads came to.
Right.
So for me, that worked. When somebody hit the button asking for information, they had a rotation of however they did it, and I'd get leads specifically for me. Then they started changing, both of them. One, they kept raising their rates. So the more successful this became, their rates
Mm.
kept going up. But the other thing that they did was they started making it a free for all. So, for example, on Zillow, when you press the button to, I want more information on this house, now it goes out to 4 or 5 agents who are all
Oh
paying
wow.
for leads. So now it becomes a race. And literally,
Mm.
I could answer within 2 to 3 minutes, and everybody else had gotten there ahead of me. I personally did not run my business where it was automated, where there was an automatic response or a text or a phone call or whatever it was. I don't work with a team. And
Mm.
when I owned my own office, I would take those leads and give them to the agents who worked for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a very small office and we weren't set up to compete with multiple leads like that, or with multiple agents like that. So I decided personally to back off. And I think what sealed the deal for me, at least with Zillow, was
Mm-hmm.
they are actually now a brokerage in
I
at
heard.
least
I
two
heard.
states.
Yeah,
Not in,
Florida being one.
yeah, not in
Right.
Ohio and not in Oregon, but they are
Mm-hmm.
a brokerage. And that's
Mm.
actually when I cut off my funding to them, because I felt that they were using my money to now compete against me.
Correct. Oh, good point.
And that it's realtor.com is not doing that. So that's good. And I think that all the leads, I did get some business from them, but I would say it was hit and miss. So also I was running around trying to work these leads when most of them did not turn into money. Many did, some did, and some were very good leads. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I just chose for my business to no longer do that.
Oh my goodness, Brooke. See, we can go down a rabbit hole with this. You spoke on a lot of different things, right? So I have to ask you this question. I've only asked a handful of agents on this podcast. So it's clear, it's really not even a question at this point. It's clear that you have the mindset that it's basically Zillow versus agent. Zillow is the competitor, correct?
Yes, I do consider them a
Okay.
competitor. Yes.
Okay. I just want to be sure. Yeah, I mean, I had an agent on here before that spoke on it, and even had apparel that said it. But that was my first time ever, hearing it. I thought Zillow was made, like you said, as a leads generator. But not being on that business side of it, it just explained like, yeah, it may have started off that way, but now
Yes.
they're literally getting brokerage license in states, which literally makes them a brokerage, makes them
They are
competition.
now
So,
on the MLS in certain states. So if they
whew,
are listing homes, because they're also doing their the buying program, kind of like an open door where, we'll make you an offer for cash and just buy the house from you. So in those states where they're
Really?
licensed, they're also trying to get into that business. Now they did for a while. I honestly have not kept
Ooh.
up with it a lot. I think that they stopped it because
Okay.
they got themselves they didn't make any money from it because the market kept
Mm,
shifting. But that's one of the other things that they were doing. Now, have they shifted back to no longer being a brokerage? I do not know the answer to that. And
mhm.
no, they're not a brokerage in every state. But for me, funding my competition is not something that I'm in business to do.
Oh man, oh man, oh that was great insight right there. That's something that I mean, as a consumer, you probably don't know nor care about, but on
Yeah.
the business side of things, that's a very important note right there. So thank you
Mhm.
for explaining that for us, Brooke. April, which I didn't know, is Fair Housing Month in real
Mhm.
estate. So let's talk about it then. How do you handle situations where a client expresses preferences that may be in conflict with certain fair housing laws? You know, like desire to live in certain neighborhoods that may have a community of people that look like them. How do you address these situations?
Well, I basically ignore them when they say things like that. One thing I want there's one thing I do want to mention that the National Association of Realtors on their website has something called Fairhaven, which is a
Mm,
simulator. It's a fair housing simulator, and it takes about an hour, hour and a half, and it's really great to just kind of run through some of the things, and it refreshes you on how to handle any discrimination that might come up. And it
okay.
was really interesting running through it because I was very fortunate. The situations that they mentioned, I've never had be an issue for me,
Hmm.
where people's offers weren't accepted because they feared it was based on color or ethnicity or something else. And I am fortunate I have not had that happen. I think twice in my career I have had a couple of sellers start to go down that rabbit hole, and I
Hmm.
quickly, literally, put my stuff back together and started packing up. And he looked at me. I said, "That's against fair housing, and if you're going to do that, I'm gone.
Wow.
Period." That's
Wow.
it. And they stopped, and it was never a problem again. But I just don't tolerate anything like that. In regard to when people want to buy in certain areas, I actually print off every listing that fits their criteria. And if they are concerned about a neighborhood or want a certain neighborhood, I tell them, here's the listings, go drive around. You tell me what you want to see. I am
Good
not
point.
going to tell you because I don't live in every neighborhood.
Right. Right.
I don't know what other neighborhoods are. I only know what's in my own neighborhood. And I have absolutely no idea what other neighborhoods are like. So I don't have that information. I can give them websites or places to call. I get a lot of questions about crime and crime rates in certain areas. And to me, it doesn't matter what the neighborhood is, there's going to be crime statistics usually,
Right.
unfortunately, on things.
Hmm.
So I direct them to the local police department or websites that might have that kind of information, but I just don't engage.
Mm,
And that's
mm.
how I choose to handle it. I just don't engage.
Rightfully so. I completely understand. Yeah, see, in a perfect world, we don't need fair housing laws. We don't need fair housing rules. But unfortunately, this isn't a perfect world. So that is necessary because it does exist. So thank you for
Yes.
doing your part in making sure everyone is accounted for. We appreciate that. Glad to hear. Brooke, can you clarify something right now? Are you currently working with a team or are you working solo?
I work solo. I am a
Okay.
broker. I do have my
Gotcha.
broker's license. I was a managing broker in Oregon, but when I came to Ohio a couple of years ago, so I've been practicing now since 2006 is when I got my license. And
Hmm.
but I didn't want to lose my broker status and didn't know if I ever wanted to hang out a shingle. But at this moment, I am solo.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So with that being said, it just took me like two different places now, right? I have to ask you, what made you make the decision to want to work solo rather than with a team?
Well, it's that's an interesting question. When I lived in Oregon, I opened an office in 2010, and I was solo in that office for probably about 2 years. I had a licensed assistant,
Okay.
and brought in a licensed assistant, and then my husband got his license and started doing property management. And at the
Mm.
height, I ended up having two offices and about a dozen agents in total. And I will tell you that as much as I loved having that, I am too independent and did not like the supervision portion of it. It wasn't my
Hmm.
thing. Now, what's interesting is I teach for NAR, I teach designation courses, and I love doing the teaching, and I would teach and try and train my agents. But because I was just a tiny little boutique company, after a while, the management, as well as I was selling and I was doing very well and
Mm,
very busy, it was just too much for me. And when I really
right.
sat down and looked at it, I decided that for me, I preferred selling and just being an agent, even though I've got my broker's license. But this is the part that I love more than the management. But then I started doing more teaching. And I
Gotcha. Hmm.
enjoy that to kind of share the wealth, I guess, and just share what I know and help other people better themselves as realtors in this business. And just kind
Right.
of set the bar a little bit higher is what my hope is in the teaching portion of it. But,
Right. I kind of like the difference between what you just said, supervising and teaching. I mean, it's such a thin line between the two in a way, and the responsibilities that come with each one, but you just have to be built different to really like just just want to teach people and just spread that knowledge rather than be over their backs and managing them all the time and be responsible for their livelihood in some type of way. And I can completely get it now that you put it that way. I get it. So my next question regarding that is, okay, so you're not working with the team currently, so whether we can either take it back to when you were working with the team or just reference now working alone. How do you leverage competitive analysis to keep yourself informed, or when you had a team to keep your team informed, that way that you all have a competitive advantage?
um, hmm. That's an interesting question. I'd say the first thing I usually tell people is that everybody should do their own SWOT analysis, where it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities,
I
and
love
threats.
SWOT analysis. Yes, please.
You, we all have to do one
Yeah.
because we are independent contractors. And
Hmm.
even if you're managing a team, everybody still has to participate and do their own thing.
Hmm.
And you can't make somebody successful if they're not motivated to do it themselves.
True.
And in this business, so to me, a SWOT analysis is number one. You got to know who's your competition, what are the
Hmm.
threats out there, and what are
Hmm.
your personal strengths and weaknesses, because we are all different and we all run our business completely different from somebody else. I know that the way I do things, I'm taking it a much slower pace. My business has always been referral based. In
Mm.
Oregon, I was 90% referral. And here in Ohio, I'm trying to do the same thing. But because when I got here, I didn't really know anybody, I only knew a
Right.
handful of people. It's taken me longer to build my business up to a place where it's more referral based. But other people do their businesses completely different. They're more automated, they have more processes, procedures. So figuring that out for yourself is key. And then the other thing I think that's very important is finding your value proposition. And one of the ways I always suggest in that is figure out what services you're providing and what's the value to the consumer, because that just helps you articulate what it is that you're doing for them. Because our industry is
Mm.
changing and it's changing fast.
Sure
And
thing.
it's going to continue to, between technology and other things just happening in our environment, there's going to be a lot of changes. So we need to know what we bring to the table. And the only way to do
100%.
that is self analysis.
Correct. Correct. I love SWOT analysis when you said that. I love that. I've been doing that since I was a kid in different scenarios and situations. Another thing that kind of helps you with that would be feedback from your clients, right? I mean, in regards to getting feedback from your clients in any industry, it kind of helps you reflect on what you did well, areas you need to improve, and things of that nature. Can you talk about how and when you get feedback from clients and how you actually use that to basically improve your system, your structures, and your business model?
Well, I look at, well, I of course send out and ask for a reference or a review after I
Hmm.
close a transaction. And so far, knock on wood, they've been good.
There you
So
go.
I haven't really had any negative feedback in that way. But to me, you've got to ask for feedback throughout the process when you're dealing with your clients. And
Okay.
as you go through things and you realize, oh, I need a procedure for this, or I need a process for that. And one great example that just happened to me last week, I was working with an elderly couple and
Hmm.
they were at the signing table and he got very, very confused on what to do with the utilities and the home insurance and things that somebody younger, you tell them, oh, you got to switch out your utilities. They go, okay, I know what that is. Well, older people get very flustered with that kind of thing. So I didn't have anything in place. So I created a whole form to tell people, what needs to be done after closing, things of that nature. As I've gone through, I've kind of realized where I'm either missing something or I need to do something better, or a client will tell me that they need something. And I just try and keep very open communication with my clients. And I
Mm.
tell them right up front, if you're unhappy with something, you need something I'm not giving you, just say so. And that's how I've always operated and kind of what I've built my business around.
There it is. There it is.
Mhm.
You only, and I mean, like you said, you do your own analysis of yourself, and I like to also get that feedback and criticism from consumers, from the end users, the people that are on the other end of whatever service or good that we are providing. Also, relationships are important, obviously, specifically in your industry, Brooke. But in your experience, how has having a strong relationship with lenders benefited you and your clients?
Oh my God, it's imperative.
I know,
I
right?
had a situation, this was early on in my career. I had a first time home buyer, and she had given notice at her apartment, was a week away from closing, everything's packed up, and the lender called me and said, I can't do the loan. And I knew that this person was thoroughly qualified, and she's crying at my desk homeless, about to be homeless in a week. The
Yeah.
landlord wouldn't extend
What?
anything. So I had a lender in my pocket, because sometimes people pick their own lenders. And as much as I try to guide them to a local lender or somebody I've worked with, you can't always do that. So in
Gotcha.
this case, it happened to be, I don't even remember who the lender was. I think it was somebody off the internet, but I don't remember. I honestly do not remember. It was a long time ago, but I do remember this incident. So I found a lender, got her pre approved, and closed in 2 weeks. And
Woo!
you need people in your pocket who can do things like that, just in case your clients don't follow your advice and go to a lender that you're familiar with to begin with. And so
Wow.
having a great lender, they can also, I had a same woman, actually, the same lender,
Mhm.
helped one of my clients get their credit score cleaned up. It took
Oh,
them
good.
6 to 8 months, but when I sent him to get pre-approved, the lender told him, "You're not ready yet, but
Mm,
here's the things that need to get done." He was very diligent about working on the list, and with 8 months, she had him approved, but helped him work through that process. A good lender is going to do that to help your client
right,
so that they're able to get into a home.
right. Brooke, we got to rewind a little bit. Did you say that the lender said last minute essentially that they couldn't do the loan? Did they?
Yeah.
What point what point in the process did they say that?
They said it a week before closing.
I didn't even know the lender could do that. Are you
Yes, they can.
serious?
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
my
yes, they
goodness.
can. And it's happened to me on about 3 different occasions. Twice it was with the same lender. So whenever anybody brought me a pre-approval from that person, I actually required them to get at least a pre-qualification letter from a different lender. If they insisted on using this person, I
Oh,
required them or I wouldn't work with them. That's how bad this lender. I don't understand what would happen, but a week before closing, and the appraisal was good. Everything was fine with the appraisal. The credit background was good. There was the title, everything was good. But then a week ahead of time, sorry, we can't do it.
hmm. Off
And
off the air, I'm gonna ask you about that. We're not gonna put no names out there now, but I have a feeling I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know. Okay. Uh wow, that I did not know that. Imagine the position that put you in. Oh my
oh, it's
god, I can't believe.
horrible.
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine. And the fact, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the solutions that you came up with. You were solution oriented. I have to give it up for you. You closed that loan in 2 weeks with
Well, the
an
lender did. I
entirely,
found a
yeah,
lender to do it,
correct.
but yes.
You helped close that loan in 2 weeks. Like you got a new lender in 2 weeks. Like that alone is unheard of. Getting it closed in 2 weeks.
And the seller was willing to wait. See, that's the other
Right.
piece of this. You've got a seller now who has a buyer who got turned down for a loan right before closing. And mind
Yeah.
you, many times the sellers have left their home. They've
True.
packed up, they're buying something else. So it just doesn't mess up the buyer, it messes up everybody in the process.
Man. Oh
Yeah,
my
it can happen. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So the seller has to be willing to work with it. So when I got her pre-approved by somebody else right away, it's like that lender had to call the listing agent to say, no, no, this buyer's actually good. The issue was, we don't know what the issue was as to why the original lender said no, but they did. And it's happened. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is a nightmare. That is a nightmare. I could not imagine. But that's why it's key to have those relationships, especially with lenders as an agent, because you had those resources in your back pocket. With that being said, how are you keeping these relationships fresh with these lenders? How are you nurturing these relationships? Are you all going out to eat? Are you going to family gatherings together? Or are you just having conversations, just giving them business? How are you keeping that relationship with your lenders going?
My philosophy is take a vendor to lunch. And that
Mm,
is a lender, an insurance person, an inspector, anybody through the process. The title companies all have marketing people. I meet
right.
them for coffee, for lunch, for drinks, whatever it is. And I try to meet with them on a somewhat regular basis. And hopefully, if they're lenders I'm doing business with, then I see them often enough and I'm working with them and in communication. But there's a lot of lenders out there that are very good. So if they're not people that I see all the time, I do try and do that. Appraisers also are the other one. I take an
Mm,
appraiser out for coffee or lunch. They love to talk sometimes. And they'll
got you.
tell you more about what they need and what's, just pieces of the process. So, yeah.
Man, oh man, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, keep the relationship fresh and do things like that. Now, just for clarification purposes, this just popped up in the back of my mind. There's no conflict of interest or anything like that with you, taking them out to dinner and things of that, keeping that relationship fresh. There's nothing in regards to that, right? Just want to be sure.
No, and I can't even say that I take them out necessarily. It's just we meet for lunch or meet for
There you
coffee or
go.
something like that. I can't
Gotcha.
say that I take them out personally. No, I don't. Thank you for clarifying that. No,
Mm-hmm.
but I will get together with them, and meeting
Mm-hmm.
somebody for a cup of coffee is not a big
For
deal.
sure.
So yeah, no,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Cool. 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 Are there any specific qualities that you look for when you are building a relationship with a lender? By the way.
Well, I just like to know, I guess one of them is where is their underwriting and what kind of relationship do they have with their underwriting department? How long have they been working at that organization? And then I like to figure out, are they a bank? Are they a mortgage broker? Because brokers
Mm,
have access to different products sometimes than banks do. I met with a
okay.
local banker actually recently. We do volunteering together, so I happened to stop by their office for something, and I found out that they hold most of their banks. It's a very small community bank. They hold most of their loans in house. And that's an
Hmm.
unusual thing. So, do they sell them on the secondary market? Do they hold it in house? By holding it in house, sometimes they can do for people with different types of credit scores and help out a little bit more because they're not trying to sell it on the secondary market. So, it's just kind of
Mm,
understanding the process, but all of these different lending institutions have different products. What types of loans do they all do? FHA. I've dealt a lot with USDA loans, which are the rural loans. Um, because I dealt a lot with those in Oregon, especially VA loans. What types of loans are they providing? What kind of products are they providing as the interest rates went up? some of the banks started offering different types of lending packages to help people adjust to the rates, not an adjustable rate, but
Right.
to adjust to the increase in the rates to get them
Correct.
acclimated to it. Um,
Mm.
so they started coming out with new products. So what do they have? Because they change things all the time. I just found out recently one of the banks has a program for doctors and medical personnel where they give them a little bit of discount on their rates. So all different lending
Mm.
institutions do things a little differently. And that's why I try and meet with as many as possible. And if I ever refer a lender, I give them no less than 3 names. I want them to shop around. I
Got you.
don't just say, go to this person. It's like,
Right.
here's a
Okay.
group of people I've worked with. So I always refer more than one person.
Oh, that's always good. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
give them a choice. Give them, make them feel like they not even make them feel like, but actually give them the power to make a decision and choose what's best for them in their situation. I get it. It's always good to have that network. That's this network circle of people within your network that within your team that helps execute things. Good, good.
When you asked earlier if I have a team, yeah, I have a team. They just don't work in my real estate office. They're
There
everywhere
you go.
else.
Great perspective. Love the way
Yeah.
you put that. Brooke, this is what I really want to pick your brain about. I'm interested to see what your response is with this. If an agent is hired to a brokerage, but due to statistics, not all agents are very successful. Let's say, for an example, they quit after a year of being, quote, unsuccessful, however that may look. Is it bad leadership from the brokerage or the leader, or is it bad execution from the agent, and why?
Oh, um, the first office when I first got my license in 2006, and I went to that office, and the owner of the office said to me, "We take in everybody who comes to our door, we throw them against the wall and see who sticks."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I went, "Oh, that is not good."
I know. I'm like,
No,
oh,
the
okay.
company had it was a national brand, so the company had some stuff online to do some training. It's like, here's the link to the online stuff, go do your thing.
Hmm.
Then there's my current company that I'm with in Northwest Ohio. I'm with the Danbury Company. They are a very large company. They're private, but they're not a franchise, but they're very large in our area. They have a huge education training, tons and tons of training. So if you're a first time agent, you can get what you need, and the management is very strong. So, and then there's offices that are in between. Um, so that said, even when I got to go back a little bit, even when I had my own office, I will say I didn't provide, I provided on the job training. I didn't have a training program per se, but
Mm,
we are independent contractors. And I actually ultimately think that the onus falls on the agent
I would think
because
so
if
too.
they're not motivated, they're not
Hmm.
going to be successful. People get
Hmm.
into this business thinking that it's easy. Oh, I like to look at houses. And it's like, it just makes me
Right.
crazy. This job is so difficult, and there's
Hmm.
challenges all the time, and somebody's unsuccessful for a lot of different reasons. But to me, if you've got the gumption and you seek out the education and you seek out a mentor, you will be able to get what you need, hopefully to be successful. But even then, not everybody's successful.
Mm,
When
mm.
I started in '06, the market collapsed in '08.
Correct.
And when I got there, there were agents that were heavy hitters doing tons of volume. But back then, it was easy to do the volume in 2004, 5, and 6
True.
because
True.
the market was churning. By
It was a
'08, they
buyer's
were out of
market. Yeah.
business. By
Hmm.
2008, some of the top people in my county were done because they didn't understand how to generate business. They didn't understand how to do the marketing necessary in order to keep your business going. And a
Gotcha.
lot of people get into the market when things are great, like they've been for the last few years. It's been an interesting market, very different, but it's still been a very strong market. If things shift, sometimes people don't know how to adapt. And I've always looked at this from the long term approach.
There it
And
is.
that's part of the mindset I think that you need to be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was kind of leading into my last question. I did want to end on a unsuccessful situation. I kind of wanted you to just paint the picture. What does success look like to you personally?
Oh gosh, I think success for everybody is so different. Well, success in my business is not what it used to look like when I was in Oregon. When I was in
Mm,
Oregon, success was I was in the top 3 to 5% in the county consistently. I don't want that here. I don't, I have taken my business into a different direction where I want to have very happy clients that keep referring me out. And that to me is success. So when the phone rings, if somebody says they're a new client and they tell me that, John that I just sold a house to referred me, that
right,
to me
right.
is a success story. So I don't
Beautiful.
need to do the huge volume. That's not my goal. Of course, I want to make some money and I want to, do the business,
Oh,
but
well, yeah, that
I
was, yeah,
don't
of
need
course.
to chase it like I was. That's not what's important to me. And then that gives me more time too with my family.
That's well said. Well said. And it ultimately speaks to you preferring quality over quantity at this point in your career, too. So that speaks a lot, speaks volumes about your character, too, Brooke. We appreciate you for pulling up a chair and giving us a lot of game and information here at the closing table. Before we go, if you have any last words and or want to tell the people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. This has been a lot of
Yeah,
fun and I really, really appreciate it. And if anybody
absolutely.
wants to find me, I am with the Danbury Company in Toledo, Ohio, and you can find me online. I think my name's listed at the bottom. Just Google me. You will find me.
Correct, correct. Thank you so much, Brooke, for being here and sharing your knowledge with us. We definitely do appreciate it. For our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, now's your time to hit that like button. We would strongly appreciate that. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. I also like to leave our audience with a question just to get them thinking, Brooke. Audience, what are 2 key characteristics that you look for when looking for a real estate agent? Drop your comments below. Besides that, we will talk to you next time.